that depict a history of Egypt that goes back far longer, maybe even 30,000 plus years ago, but archaeologists dismiss it because they think that that's mythical. But non-conventional archaeologists who believe in what's called the Younger Dryas impact theory,
Okay.
and that somewhere around 11,800 years ago, civilization was essentially all but wiped out by comet impacts.
Okay.
And that is the reason why they keep finding these insanely old, huge structures, megalithic structures that are carved out of stone. Like when you go back to like Göbekli Tepe, which is 11,600 years ago.
Okay.
That's an insanely old structure that they didn't even know people were capable of building until they discovered it in the 1990s. So the conventional timeline of people, when you go to 11,600 years ago, was just hunter-gatherers. But now that they have Göbekli Tepe with its 3D carved things, and have you seen Graham Hancock's amazing series on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse?
No.
You should check it out. It's amazing. But it's about that. It's all about that there's a lot of physical evidence of an advanced civilization from far, far, far longer ago than we have conventionally dated, which is ancient Sumer, which is we put it about 6,000 years ago.
Yeah. But like the first, it's difficult to date it with precision, but or at least to within a few hundred years. But it's roughly 5,500 years. Like if you say like what is the oldest like stone tablet?
Yeah.
Because this is it's if you're like an archaeologist, if you were to discover something older than that, you'd be very famous. It's like they really looked hard.
Yeah.
And 5,500 years really is kind of the if you say like any kind of evidence that I've seen that is actually substantial is writing is 5,500 years old.
Yeah, in terms of writing, yeah. Well, what they believe is that there's very little left of this ancient civilization other than things like the pyramids, other than things like the Sphinx. There's a geologist that really stuck his neck out. His name's Dr. Robert Schoch from Boston University. And what he said was, his theory is that there's deep water erosion all over the temple of the Sphinx, where the Sphinx was carved out of, that is indicative of thousands of years of rainfall. And the last time they had rainfall in the Nile Valley was around 9,000 BC. So what he believes is, because back then the whole Nile Valley was a lush rainforest and eventually receded into desert.
Okay.
Yeah, so that whole area, like even the Sahara, used to be rich rainforest. And it receded into what it is now. But if you go back then, he believes that's when that thing was constructed. And he says the physical, the geologists look at it, and if he shows it to them in terms of like just shows an image of the erosion and doesn't tell them where it is, almost all of them will say that's water erosion from thousands of years of rainfall.
I think even if you say like even if you say like civilization is like 9,000 years old, it's still nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
So we're still talking about like a very tiny fraction of Earth's existence. Like Earth, the geological evidence suggests Earth is about 1.5 billion years old. Human civilization has been around for roughly 1/millionth of Earth's existence.
Yeah.
There's basically nothing. And even if it's 10,000 years,
even if it's 30,000 years ago, it's still nothing.
Yeah.
What they're saying though is that civilization is insanely fragile.
That's exactly.
And much more fragile than I think we realize.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think we should view civilization as being fragile.
Yeah, but we don't. In that bizarre, it's one of the weird things about people is that unless the threat is in front of us, it's abstract. Unless it's like